Good afternoon, folks. How are we doing? Hope we're well. Apologies, it's been a little while since one of these. We've been easing back in after the summer holidays. I talked about this last week. It's been a very hectic summer holiday. A lot of personal stuff going on, a lot of family stuff. So we're easing back into the regular streams, but we're back. So for those who've not been to one of these before, Mondays we do Geeky Lunch Chat, where I talk about kind of things that are going on, either that stuff that's happened to me recently or current events, kind of in the geeky gaming sphere. Wednesdays we do Geeky Lunch Chat with games, where I play some sort of either board game or puzzle game or something like that. We started last week with that Mashanika Museum, which I'm very much enjoying, and we will definitely be getting back to that on Wednesday. But it's a Monday. What kind of stuff do I want to talk about? Well, let's start off with the shameless plug to begin with, because I think it is important to do it. So if you are a gamer, whether that's a tabletop role-playing gamer, I've just realized I've got my heart rate on. Let's turn that off. You probably don't need to see my heart rate. Also, it said I was dead. So there we go, because I hadn't switched it on my watch. Tangent, there we go. Right, anywho, right, if you are a gamer, whether that's a tabletop RPG gamer or a general gamer, specifically a gamer who wants to play with kids, either you're a parent, teacher, guardian, librarian, whatever it might be, I have a Kickstarter that is currently at pre-launch. The funding will start in March. It's called Little But Fierce. It's a rewrite of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, designed to be accessible by kids as young as 6, but absolutely it can be played by anyone. So building up followers on that, we're at 65 already, which is a really great start. But if that's you, or you know people who may want to introduce their kids to role-playing games, check it out. I think you'll like it. Fitness Frank there. X-Men alert. Sure, absolutely. I'm going to go for the 90s X-Men here, which is, I still stand by, the cartoon that has the best opening theme ever. I know that might be controversial, because there are a lot of good contenders for that one, but the X-Men 90s cartoon series has, I still think, it's a pretty banging tune. Absolutely love it. So, shameless plug over with. Let's dive straight into what I wanted to talk about today. So, I had a really nice weekend because my brother was over. So, my brother lives out in Croatia, so I don't get to see him terribly often. We stay in touch quite a bit, but it's rare that he's able to make it over, and I have not made it over to Croatia yet, alas, but we're hoping to soon. But he's over for a work thing, and our schedules aligned, so he came over a few days earlier, which means, we've got to do some good catching up and play a lot of games. Because, that we grew up playing an awful lot of kind of board games and role-playing games and stuff like that. He's 2 years older than me. We started playing things like Hero Quest when we were kids. That became Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, all that kind of stuff. So absolutely brilliant. It was really nice when I get the opportunity to play some board games with him. So first half of this, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to take you through a few. Some I've talked about before. Some I've actually played the Steam version of it on some of our Wednesday? That's not a word. Some of our Wednesday streams. But I'll talk a little bit through some of these because they're all absolutely 100% recommendations. Whether you are someone who plays a lot of board games or someone who has, never picked up a board game other than like the classics of like Monopoly and Guess Who and stuff like that. Hopefully a couple of recommendations for you, either to play with yourself or as possible gifts for people you know. So we'll run through some of them. But before we get into some specific board games, a little tangent on TCGs or CCGs. So my daughter, who is nearly 6, going on 6 rapidly, and going on 16 in other ways, given some of the minor tantrums we've had of late, but she has become absolutely obsessed with Pokémon. In literally like the last month and a half, she's become absolutely obsessed with it. About, I can't remember how long ago, let's say 6 months ago, she got some Pokemon cards in a McDonald's Happy Meal and was kind of intrigued by it. And then since then it's been, she wants to know, what's the proper game of Pokemon cards? How do we play it? So over the summer, we ended up introducing her to that. We have just finished running through Pokemon Sword and Shield on the Switch, which we thoroughly enjoyed, but she is absolutely Pokemon obsessed. So there are a fair few Pokemon cards in the house. So I've been playing on and off with her, which is great. And actually I managed to play a little bit with my brother, which was brilliant because he has not played Pokemon since a little bit when we were teenagers. So that was an awful lot of fun. We also got to play a little bit of Lorcana as well. We both dabbled a little bit in Lorcana, so that's really nice to play. I'm still finding my feet with Lorcana. I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the kind of Magic, the Gathering kind of vibes. In some way, I think the rules are better than Magic. I like the ink mechanic as opposed to land, but still finding my feet because I think we both found this in playing it over the weekend that there was kind of a thing about... you can be aggressive, you can challenge, you can attack your opponent's creatures, but there's not a lot you can stop them to do from questing, other than you can attack them if their defenses are down. So you have to be a little bit more aggressive in some places, otherwise they will hit a critical mass of characters and there is nothing you can do to stop them questing and get that 20 lore you desire. But really enjoyed getting to play some TCGs with my brother. Huge amount of fun and a massive amount of nostalgia in that regard. So, brilliant. Oh, and on Pokemon cards, if you've not checked it out and you've ever wanted to check out Pokemon cards, or you played it as a kid but you've not been able to as an adult because it's bloody expensive, check out the Pokemon TCG app, Pokemon TCG Pocket. It's a ever so slightly simplified version of it. Not huge simplifications, but it's free to play. Yeah, you can chuck a little bit of money at it to get some bonuses and stuff, but it is absolutely completely playable in the free version. It's not like some of these freemium games where, yeah, technically you can play it, but it's going to be an utterly crap experience unless you chuck some money at it. So I've been very impressed with that. I think we may end up playing a little bit of that on one of the Wednesday streams, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, tangent over about TCG. So let's dive into some board games. Like I said, some of these I've spoken about before, some I haven't. I do have props here, which we'll be using for some of this, because I think it's better to show this stuff if I can. So, first one on here. This is a game that we absolutely have played on stream. We've done it a few times. The game is called Calico. The Steam version of it, or the digital version of it, is called Quilts and Cats of Calico. I guess the name Calico was taken. But it's wonderful. So I'll chuck this in front of the camera for a second. There we go. So Calico is, as the name suggests, a puzzly tile laying game with quilts and cats. It's a really nice, slightly asymmetric board game where you are essentially putting together a patchwork quilt. You have 3 different types of objective you can do. You can match together similar colours to get buttons. You can match together similar patterns to get cats, and you've got 3 objectives to try and make, where you've got to get a series of colours or a series of patterns around certain points, which is nigh on impossible to do, which means it is basically impossible for you to play the game correctly. So it's about you trying to maximise your points, trying to do the best you can, figuring out when you want to pivot and give up on a particular strategy, because you're not going to get that one piece you need, and just try and do the best you can. But it's a really nice game. And as we discovered, there are... There's different difficulties in it. So the basic game, not that there's expansions or anything to my knowledge, but the basic game it comes with it's relatively straightforward, but there's lots of ways you can vary it to go, oh, I'm going to use different types of patterns, I'm going to use different types of cards, I'm going to use different cats, where you can turn a very straightforward game into something that's way more complicated. We did both. We did the kind of the basic version, the starter game that it recommends, and then varied 2 things, and suddenly we were both staring at this going, there is way too much in my head. I can't actually process this. But it was great. It was really, really fun game. In terms of accessibility for kids, you can simplify it a little bit to make it accessible by younger kids. We've played it with my daughter a couple of times, but we have had to either simplify it down a bit or play with her on the team as someone else. So I wouldn't say it's immediately accessible for like 6 years old, but like 10 years old, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's a really good game, an awful lot of fun, a huge amount of replayability, and the Steam version of it is absolutely fantastic. So Calico, it's a really great game. I've played it a load of times now since I've got it, and it's been a huge amount of fun every time. So Calico, absolutely. Right, next one on here. This is one without an app version of it. Alas, I think it could be fun. This is called Fit to Print. So look, the art style on this is absolutely gorgeous. As you can see, we've got kind of anthropomorphic animal journalists, which is brilliant. And oh, that's upside down. Let's try and turn this the right way around. So you might be able to see the kind of principle of the game here. You are, I said, anthropomorphic animal journalists who are trying to put together the front page of the newspaper on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You have to get a balance of articles, photographs, adverts. There's certain conditions of what you can and can't do. You've got to try and maximize points. You've got to keep a good balance of not too many happy stories and sad stories. It's a huge amount of fun, and it's a very tactile game. Essentially, each round of it, you've got a big pile of stuff face down, and you've got to, with one hand, pick up what you think you need and put it on your editor's desk. And you get little cardboard desks, completely unnecessary, but it's a lovely touch. You put together all the pieces, and there's a clock going. And then at a certain point where you decide you're ready, you can then start laying them out on your newspaper, and then you might discover you've got too many things, you've got not enough things, and you've got to try and just adapt to it as best you can. It's a lot of fun, and despite the fact it sounds like there'll be a huge amount of pressure there because of the timer, in a sort of Galaxy Trucker type way, I actually find that generally the pressure of it is just a gentle bit of fun pressure. You just see everyone else going, it's not a... there's a risk with games like that where you're working against the clock, that is going to be incredibly stressful. And I've never found it to be that, because everyone makes the same silly mistakes. Everyone is struggling against it. Everyone goes too big or too small. It's a huge amount of fun. And the scoring... The first time you read it, it sounds complicated, but the second you play one game of it, it's like, no, this is incredibly easy. So I think it is quite accessible to younger players. You just got to play that first game with them, and then they'll absolutely get the hang of it. So huge amount of fun, that one. And also nicely, not really a lot of reading on that one. So I think that's quite accessible. I don't know if they do translated versions of it, but it's nice that actually... you're more relying on the kind of colours and stuff like that, rather than having to worry about reading a huge amount of text, which I think does make it accessible to a wider audience, which is really cool. So yeah, fit to print, absolutely brilliant game. There is not an app version of it yet. I'm not sure what that would look like, but I think it could be doable. And given the fact that it's made by the same people who made Calico, which is Flat Out Games, and Calico was turned into an app version, I have to wonder if they might make a fit-to-print app version as well. But yeah, huge amount of fun. Next one. This is one that I've only just, literally this weekend, played my physical copy of it. I played it a bunch of times on stream. I bought a physical copy and hadn't had a chance to play it yet. And this, heavier box, this one. This one is Wingspan. Wingspan is an absolutely gorgeous game, and I love the history of this game. So Wingspan was created by someone who really liked birds and wanted to make a board game about birds. It was their first board game, and it won awards and became incredibly popular. There's a load of expansions for it. They've done spin-offs like Wormspan with dragons and Finspan with fish. It's an awful lot of fun. You are breeding birds, you're getting them to lay eggs, you're scoring points for a variety of different things. There's lots of little bird facts on the cards. So some cards apply to birds above a certain size or above a certain wingspan and stuff like that. It is a huge amount of fun. So you are both getting a really nice board game that, again, there's not really an aggressive element to it, really. It's quite relaxing, I would say, but you also get these novelty little bird facts as you go through it, and you get to enjoy the silly names of some of the birds out there. But it's an absolutely lovely game, and beautifully made. Like I said, you lots of times in it they're laying eggs and you're putting them on various nests, and they could have done it with little tokens. You get little carved eggs about the size of like a Cadbury's mini egg. They're really, really nice. Don't eat the pieces, though. Never eat the pieces. That's not a good idea. But it's a really nice game. I would say it's a little bit more complex than the other two. So once you've got it, you're absolutely fine. But there's definitely a finding your feet element, to the degree that I played it on stream, what was it, about 6 months ago or so? Probably longer. Time is a weird soup. But I played it on stream a fair few times. And even then, when I was playing it with my brother, I was having to ask, "How can you remind me how this works again?" You know, I remembered bits of it, but it wasn't coming back as immediately as some of the other games that I played on stream. But no, it's a really great game, Wingspan. I would heartily recommend checking it out. And if you're not sure on it, get the Steam version. There's a bundle on there which is Calico and Wingspan. Both are amazing games, so try them out. Great to play single player or against the computer on that. And if you really like it, get a physical copy. If you know people who you might want to play it with. But a really, really nice game, that one. Next one is one that again I've played on stream. I think it's fair to say this is one of my favourite board games. Actually, my brother requested this because we played it before. I think when I visited him previously, when he lived in Germany, I think. And he said, "Yeah, actually, can we play this one?" And that is Lords of Waterdeep. Lords of Waterdeep is an absolutely amazing game. Sadly, it's harder to find now. It looks to be sold out on Amazon, but you can probably find it in some places. So Lords of Waterdeep is a worker placement game. So you are one of the lords of the Dungeons and Dragons city of Waterdeep. You aren't playing the heroes and fighters and thieves and mages and clerics that you would see in D&D, but you are sending them off on quests to do stuff for you. And you are trying to gather points, you're trying to buy buildings, you are just trying to manipulate the resources. You know, oh, I need 2 fighters for this and a thief for that, and I require 5 gold for this, and I need to go to the tavern and play this card. It's a really nice game, and because worker placement games have a risk of being overly complex, but Lords of Waterdeep is very, very straightforward, and one of the nice things about it, I mean, it is D&D themed, and the D&D theme is wonderful. You know, the fact there's a quest called Domesticate Owlbears is amazing. Everyone wants a domestic owlbear, especially if you've played BG3. But even if you're not a D&D fan, it's a very accessible game. Like, I have played it with both my mum and my dad, and they both thoroughly enjoyed it. So it's a really good game, and the app version is absolutely fantastic. I've played that on Steam. I've also played it on the iPad. It plays very well on the iPad. So definitely I would recommend checking out Lords of Waterdeep. That's a really fun game. The only bugger is it's a little trickier to get, which is a shame because I'm pretty sure the license is still good. But I think it's always been a popular game. And this is going to sound like a really silly thing I'm about to say, unless you're a real board game junkie. The box is really nicely designed so all the pieces fit in and don't fall out. They've really thought about this. Some games do not do that. It's like, here is an amount of space. You may be able to fit stuff in. You may not. This has been beautifully made. Everything goes in the correct place. Then you put the board on top and nothing falls out. It's fantastic. Again, that sounds like an incredibly sad thing to say. But if you're a board game fan and you've got shelves full of stuff and you're figuring out how to store it, very important. Very important. So yeah, that was Lords of Waterdeep. Great game, absolutely fantastic. I will stick, I'll try and stick links for all of these, either in the description or I'll stick them kind of up there-ish on the VOD for this one. But just Google them, you'll find them. But I will try and put the links in there for those people who might want to play some of those games. The last one I'm going to talk about in this one is one I've been playing this for years with other people's copies. And at one point I bit the bullet and said, look, I really want to get a physical copy of this. And then I slightly went down the rabbit hole of this one because it's a game with an awful lot of expansions that just add more richness, more silliness without significantly making it harder. There are some interesting things to do, but it's not like one of these, oh, you buy the expansion and the game is down 9 times harder and only accessible to, absolute nerds. And as a nerd myself, I'm allowed to say that. But this game, and in giant box incoming, don't snigger, this is Smash Up. And yeah, I've got the big box for this one. It's huge. The base game is much smaller. The base game is about the size of Fit to Print. But Smash Up is an amazing game. Let me try and show you the back of it. Good grief. Right. It's too big. It's too big. Right. Smash Up is a very, very silly game. So Smash Up, the concept is that you have it comes with an awful lot of decks for various factions you can play, like elves and wizards and robots and pirates and superheroes and basically any type of kind of cool genre of stuff you could imagine. That's why there's an awful lot of expansions for it, because they just keep expanding it with more and more stuff. But as the name suggests, you do need to smash them up. So you essentially, each player takes 2 half decks and then shuffles them together. So you could be playing pirate wizards or robot Greek gods or something like that. And the half decks combine together in ridiculous ways, and you start to find which are good combos, which are not. And the visuals of it are just so foolish. You know, whether it's zombie pirates or superhero gnomes or something like that. It is just an inordinate amount of fun. I kind of got most of them actually on Facebook Marketplace. You know, getting the base game took a little bit of time, but there are so many expansions out there. And if you buy them new, some of them are quite expensive, but you can actually generally pick them up either secondhand on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or something like that. And providing they're in relatively good nick, you're absolutely fine, because then it'll add, you know, even more of these faction decks, which then you can then combine with your other ones to have even more ridiculous fun with this. And they've also done 2 very themed ones. They've done an official Disney one and an official Avengers one, which are a lot of fun. We actually did, my brother and I played a game where we took a Disney and a Marvel one each, and combined them together. And I was playing the Lion King Sinister Six. So it had like the Green Goblin and people like that from the Sinister Six of Spider-Man combined with the Lion King. And this is so dark, but it's a wonderful thing. The way you play the Lion King deck is about trying to kill Mufasa as soon as possible. Like, literally, so many cards say, if Mufasa is in your discard pile, get +2 tokens. You know, if Mufasa is in your discard pile, do this or that or the other. So yeah, that was my strategy. Play Mufasa and then play the Scar card to kill him as soon as possible. It's kind of dark, but the whole Circle of Life thing actually works really well in it. But it's a great game. I said the more expansions you add, it does potentially make it a little bit more inaccessible, because some of the expansions are a little bit more fiddly in what you do, and it can be a little bit more, I play an action to play 2 more actions, and that gets me 2 minions, and each minion gets me an extra action. You sometimes fall into that, but not terribly often. But it is a huge amount of fun. I think actually the visuals add a lot, and it's a game where 2-player is great, 3 and 4-player is absolutely freaking fantastic. So if you've not played Smash Up, do. I think there is an app version, but I think it's very old. I don't think it works with the current version of Steam and like 64-bit processors and stuff like that. Which is a shame, because it's a game that is ripe for playing as an app version. Again, I'm surprised there's not like an iOS version. I mean, maybe there is now, but it's been a long time since I've checked. But Smash Up, absolutely brilliant game. I said I dived deep into this, but if you actually want to just play a copy of it, it's something about like 20 quid, 24 quid or something like that to pick up the base game. That gets you 8 factions, so that gives you an awful lot of different combinations that you could play, and yeah, huge amount of fun there. So brilliant. So recommendations there: Pokemon TCG and Lorcana, Calico, Fit to Print, Wingspan, Lords of Waterdeep, and Smash Up. All a huge amount of fun, and I had a great time playing a load of these. Either on Friday, where I had the day off from work, my daughter was at school, or in the evenings with a beer. Huge amount of fun. So yes, there we go. A little refresher on a load of board games that I would recommend. Yeah, either playing with yourself, or there's a lot there that are very accessible to kids as well, which is brilliant, and a nice change from the Monopolies and stuff like that, which I think we can all agree is not a great game. There we go. Okay, quick swig of drink before we go on to the second bit of this. So, dinosaurs. Dinosaurs, this is not the first time I've talked about dinosaurs in some regard on one of these streams. But this one came around today because we just ended up talking about dinosaurs quite a lot, which Again, that's a nostalgia trip for me, to be honest, because both my brother and I were absolutely dinosaur obsessed as kids. Many a trip to the Natural History Museum, we knew an awful lot of dinosaurs, and there's probably still an awful lot of bits of knowledge stuck in my brain somewhere from all the dinosaur obsession as a kid. But it came up multiple times over the last couple of days, so I figured let's talk about this a little bit. Specifically, two things. So the second part of this is split into two things. This is a very complicated agenda for this stream. But, right, first things first. So, as you know, because I said it at the start and it's written there, I am making Little But Fierce. So it's a version of 5th edition for kids. So it's meant to be and is accessible for kids as young as 6 years old. I produced a starter edition, and one of the things that the starter edition included was a whole bunch of creatures, so you just had enough stuff to play a reasonable range of different types of adventures. Like, you've got some dragons, you've got some orcs, you've got minotaurs, and actually a few dinosaurs. Not a huge number of them, I think just 2 in that starter edition. But for the full printed physical Kickstarter edition with beautiful art and stuff like that, I wanted to have way more creatures. And one of the things I was working on over the weekend was actually adding some more dinosaurs. Now, I'm not going to add an entire Jurassic Park's worth of dinosaurs, but I want to have a few options here, so that if you want to play an adventure, which I think is not unreasonable, where you're going to a world, a land before time or something like that, or to a different realm that has just full of dinosaurs, you've got plenty of options there. So my question to the chat is this, which is, what dinosaurs do you think I should put into this game? Now, a couple of caveats on this one. So the first one is they need to be... well, it doesn't matter what era they lived in. We're kind of ignoring the logic of that, as most people do. But they need to be dinosaurs that the kids know about. They're fairly iconic, because there are a heck of a lot of different dinosaurs out there. Most of which the average kid does not know. Some will, if they are absolutely dinosaur obsessed, like I was. But there will be a lot of dinosaurs that the average kid does not know. So I'm definitely including Tyrannosaurus Rex, Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Velociraptors. Now let's talk about Velociraptors. I was umming and ahhing about this last night, because the fact is, people love Velociraptors from Jurassic Park, but if you know much about dinosaurs, you'll know that what we see in Jurassic Park is not actually what a Velociraptor looked like. And we're not just talking about the feathers or lack thereof, although admittedly some of the recent Jurassic Parks have started to include that. An actual Velociraptor is about the size of a turkey, or was the size of a turkey. What we see in Jurassic Park is actually, I need to check the pronunciation of this. I've always said it as Deinonychus. I don't think it's that. It's like Deinonychus, I think is the correct pronunciation. This is the thing about when you were a kid who read dinosaur stuff, you were reading it, and that was how you pronounced it, because you learned the word by reading it. But yeah, with the big claw spike and stuff like that tapping on the floor, yeah, that's not a Velociraptor thing. So I was umming and ahhing on this one, and the version I am putting into Little But Fierce is actually based on that. And I've just put a note at the bottom. It's like, note for dinosaur fans. I know this is not what a Velociraptor looked like, but we're basing it on the one that we see in the Jurassic Park movies. I know it's not correct, but it's cool. Okay. I will draw the line, I think, at the Dilophosaurus, because the Dilophosaurus with the frill and the spitting, that is very, very Jurassic Park. I probably won't include that, but we'll see. But, I want to consider a load of dinosaur-shaped things, because obviously I do want to include things like pteranodons and the like, and pterodactyls, which are not technically dinosaurs because they fly. I could also include things like ichthyosaurs and stuff like that, potentially, but... I would be curious to know, either chuck it in the chat or chuck it in the comments for this stream, or I'm asking the question out on socials as well. What are your favourite dinosaurs that you think kids would know and kids like, that I can put in? I can't go too nuts on it. It's not just going to become entirely a dinosaur book, but I would like a whole bunch of dinosaurs in this, so you get a bit of flexibility in what you want to do in your sort of prehistoric campaign, if that's what you want to do. But yeah, I think that should be a lot of fun, and it's a nice change to doing just, orcs and goblins and, trolls and stuff like that. no, those things are included in there. Other creatures are available, but I thought it was pretty cool, to include all that. So I welcome your thoughts, and I will happily include as many of them as I can. So why else was I talking about dinosaurs? Well, this links back to a conversation that we had when I was streaming Lego Jurassic World, which was kind of what makes the original Jurassic Park movies good, and what makes some of the more recent ones, specifically we're thinking the Jurassic World ones, though I would put Jurassic Park 3 kind of into this category as well, what makes them less good. Now, I will caveat this, I have not seen the latest one, which is that Jurassic World Rebirth, is that what it's called? I have not seen that one. It may be brilliant, it may be atrocious, it may be somewhere in the middle, I don't know. If you have seen it, let me know what you thought, ideally without spoilers, because I will undoubtedly see it at some point. But I will not, I don't want to accidentally tar it with a brush. It may be good, it may be bad, I don't know. But some thoughts. And if you have seen those Lego streams, I apologise, some of this is a little bit of a rehash, but dedicate a bit of time to this one. So, the thing is, the first two Jurassic Park movies, Jurassic Park and The Lost World, are largely, 90+% based on the books by Michael Crichton. So there are clearly changes. Like, if you have read or listened to the original book of Jurassic Park, having only seen the movie, you will notice some really big differences, particularly in the characters of Ian Malcolm and John Hammond. John Hammond is a very nice person in the movie, played by Richard Attenborough. Misguided, naive at times, but generally a good person. The John Hammond in the book is a lot more egotistical, a lot more driven by money. He's not really a nice guy, whereas the John Hammond of the movie is misguided and understands his mistakes by the end. So there are clearly differences, but those two movies are largely based on those two books, and that gave you a good direction of travel for that one. I think some of the nice things about those movies is, they were very grounded in terms of the science, which is very nice. But I think an important thing on this is that the dinosaurs were treated with respect with regards to their lethality. They established quite early on in these that these dinosaurs are, we're talking about the carnivores here, but equally if you weren't careful around the herbivores, they are very, very dangerous. There was no notion really of defeating the dinosaurs. It was more not being killed by them. In The Lost World, they do manage to capture the T-Rex temporarily by laying a trap and then tranquilizing it, but they realize that they can't control it. It breaks free, it causes absolute chaos in San Diego, a lot of people die. The notion of defeating and overcoming the dinosaurs is incorrect, and obviously that's the hubris of those characters, and the fact that they keep making the same mistakes again and again and again, it becomes less of a, it's poetry, it rhymes, and more of a, we're just kind of retreading old ground on this one. But another nice thing about 1 and 2 is they know what to use the certain dinosaurs for as threats and deploy them well. Like in the original Jurassic Park, you've got the T-Rex for his big pieces, who's big and incredibly dangerous. You've got the Raptors, who are smaller and incredibly dangerous. T-Rex is big and stompy. The Raptors are very, very fast and cunning. In Jurassic Park 2, so The Lost World, the Raptors are more of the primary antagonist during the main body of it, and obviously you got the T-Rex at the end. Admittedly, you do have the bit with the like the bus sequence and stuff like that, but they take the animals they've established and employ them in slightly new ways, which is quite cool. The flaw we start to get with Jurassic Park 3 is that it doesn't really have an end. It kind of ends on a bit of a whimper, which is a shame. But I think my biggest problem with Jurassic Park 3 is that they try and just say, we need a bigger dinosaur. So they've got the Spinosaurus in that one. And there's even a sequence where the Spinosaurus fights the T-Rex and the Spinosaurus wins, telling the audience that the Spinosaurus is more dangerous than the T-Rex. But the question is, why do we need something to be more dangerous than the T-Rex? At what stage did the T-Rex become not a threat? You don't need to make something bigger and badder. Now, the one thing I'll say it has going for it in this regard is at least they chose a real dinosaur. They did choose the Spinosaurus, which was a real thing. They do have some differences in how they apply it because it swims, but T-Rexes can swim as well. But at least they chose a real dinosaur. But the idea that you needed to have something bigger and badder, I think, I mean, it's almost a, dick-sized thing. We don't need it. They're scary enough. It's just how you deploy them. What's the scenario you put them in? And the fact is, if they couldn't think of a new way to deploy them, maybe they shouldn't have made the film. Just a thought. One of the good things in Jurassic Park 3, though, is the Pteranodon cage bit, where you've got, the Pteranodons, you've got flying... they're not dinosaurs, I know you kind of a flying dinosaur, but you've got flying prehistoric reptiles who present a new threat and actually are bloody terrifying. That's something I'd never considered as a kid, that Pteranodons would be terrifying, but they really are. When you see them in Jurassic Park 3. There is a question of why they would breed them in the first place, because that seems very difficult to contain. But there we go. But no, that bit is nice to see something original and new in terms of how you're deploying them. I think some of the other stuff they did in Jurassic Park 3 was unnecessary and wasn't the best idea. Now, then we get to Jurassic Worlds, which ultimately fall into the same trap again and again. Jurassic World, we have the Indominus Rex. Again, the T-Rex wasn't big and bad enough, so they've made something else, which is bigger and badder. And then there's also the whole giving them more human characteristics in terms of how they behave. I think that undermines the lethality that they put in the first one, especially when you get to that end sequence where Claire opens the T-Rex paddock and she, one, can outrun the T-Rex, and that the T-Rex doesn't eat her. And then at the end, you've got the T-Rex and the Raptors take down the Indominus, or leads to the Indominus being taken out, and then they don't just nom on the humans. Again, I think you undermine the lethality you have established in the earlier films. It's the equivalent of, if you've got a movie where bullets are flying around and every time someone gets hit by a bullet, they're probably dead. At the very least, they are completely out of action because they're totally maimed, and then your protagonist takes 3 shots in the shoulder at the end and is fine. That's a problem. You've undermined the lethality you've established. So we started getting that in Jurassic World. I will give them a pass on they made the same mistakes again, because the whole point was they were making the same mistakes again, and actually they thought, oh, we've got better technology, it's not the mistakes of John Hammond. No, they're going to make brand new mistakes. So I'll give them a pass on that one, but they didn't need to make a brand new, bigger and badder dinosaur. Jurassic World, what's the name of it? It's not Dominion. Next one, Fallen Kingdom. 1, that bit with the lava is unnecessary. And is just cruel and is heartbreaking, but we're not going to talk about that. But I think, again, we fell into the same hole of we need to make a creature that is bigger and badder, so they made a creature that is bigger and badder than the raptors. And again, in some bits, it's way too human in terms of, it's sneaking into the bedroom of the little girl, with kind of big claws. It was almost like acting like the alien from Alien. We don't need something bigger than badder than raptors. Raptors are scary enough as they are. But one of the interesting things that Fallen Kingdom did is it gave us the best setup at the end, or the most original setup at the end that we've had in a very, very long time, which is dinosaurs are out into the real world. Sorry, spoiler. But they don't use it properly. I'm not going off on too much of a rant about this. We're going to go on a small rant in this one. I've seen Jurassic Park Dominion once. I have no desire to see it again. It is just so many wasted opportunities. 1, the fact that the big villain of it is locusts is stupid. That's not what these movies are about. They've got something that's bigger than badder than a T-Rex again. I can't even remember what it's called, but they do. And that was unnecessary. They had 6 protagonists at one stage. They had the Jurassic Park characters, the Jurassic World characters, and they all survive. Not because I want those characters to die, but because, again, it undermines the lethality. You know, when you've got a sequence, and there is a sequence near the end, where 6 of them are on foot trying to escape from the bigger, badder T-Rex creature, and none of them die, that is ridiculous. And you reach the stage that where you go, they're all going to be fine. Doesn't matter what happens, they're all going to be fine. At no stage was I scared for those characters. Once I realised none of them are going to die, all the stakes were gone. All the stakes were gone entirely. And you could have done a lot of good stuff. You know, I think if you killed probably the Ian Malcolm character, I think that could have paid off really well. You would have earned those kind of story points, and you could have paid off well, and it would have re-cemented the fact that they're lethal, and missed opportunities. But, and again on the lethality thing, throughout all of it, there's loads of people interacting with dinosaurs in ways that they really should be killed, and yet they don't. It undermines completely, especially that scene in like the bazaar area. There's dinosaurs all over the place, not killing people. It's ridiculous. But my biggest issue with that third Jurassic World movie is they had the best setup they could ever want for a new Jurassic movie, and they didn't take it. Now, this would be a bold swing. But as I've established, you know, these movies, you want to do something new with them each time. Otherwise, you're just basically taking the Jurassic template and you're moving the pieces around a little bit. Which probably makes money, and undoubtedly does make money. But if you're trying to do something that is good or as interesting as the first Jurassic Park, that's not the way to do it. So what I would do, this is my bold swing that they didn't do, but I think would have been really interesting. Go Mad Max, go Last of Us. You could have the dinosaurs released into the wild, fade to black, title card comes up that says 15 years later. 15 years later. What's happened when the dinosaurs have been in the world for 15 years? I think the answer is that actually a lot of towns have been overrun. Certain ones, they put up walls and cordon themselves off, and actually there's wasteland, wild zones between major settlements. That's the setup I think you want for this. I think life has found a way. Dinosaurs have reclaimed most of the earth. There's pockets of humanity, which is fine. You know, it doesn't have to be, oh, there's 10,000 people left. There can still be plenty of people left in cities that you could defend and defend well. Islands, for example, and stuff like that. But I think your plot then for that Jurassic World movie, and again, they wasted the name Jurassic World because that would be the perfect setup there, wouldn't it? Jurassic Park, Jurassic Park, Jurassic Park. The dinosaurs are out, now it's Jurassic World. Missed opportunity. But anyway. And then you can do a very Last of Us kind of plot that would work. You got some people in a city and they need to get to another city. Maybe maybe trying to get to the old CDC or a research lab or something, or maybe there is a surgeon or something, or a doctor or something like that in another city. And the quest is our protagonists have to go on a journey. They have to go on a journey through the wild to get to the place at the end. Maybe they make it, maybe they don't, but there is a big forward direction there of where we're going with this without having to involve locusts and stuff like that. And I think that would bring the threat back. You know, some of the best bits in the first Jurassic Park are like Ellie and Robert Muldoon going through the raptor grounds when they're trying to get to that shed so we can turn the power back on. You know, an extended element of that, of just going on this trek and trying to get from one city to another city with dinosaurs having reclaimed the earth, essentially. I think that would be something sufficiently different enough that would be an awful lot of fun. And wouldn't really be a notion of we go to the island, we get off the island. It's like you've got to plow through it or turn back. You know, I think you could do an awful lot with that premise. And they went for the safe ground. The safe, boring ground of bigger dinosaurs, some weird stuff with locusts, and a lack of lethality. I think you could do a lot. You know, you get that Predator fun of it, of having, we start off with a band of 6 people and we get down to 1 maybe, or 2, you know. I think you could have done something interesting with that. But there we go. Okay, right, I have to go back to work, alas, but needs must and all that. So thank you so much for joining today. Just to wrap this all up, If you've enjoyed this, please follow me. I'm DC Bradshaw on both Twitch and YouTube. Follow me on both. I'm working towards YouTube Partner. So please take a look at my YouTube channel. Watch some of my old streams, whether it's these lunch chats, whether it's lunch chats with games, whether it's my bite-sized interview show, Short Thoughts, or some of my live streamed games and stuff like that. There's loads of stuff to have a look at, so please take a look at it. Next stream will be on Wednesday. I think that'll be at 1 o'clock. We're going to continue playing Mashanika Museum. I had a huge amount of fun with that last week, so we're going to crack on with that on Wednesday. Check socials to see when I'm going to be doing that, but I think it'll be 1 o'clock. Please, 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 please check out the Kickstarter. So I will chuck the chat, no, that's nonsense. I will chuck the link in the chat again. So if you know anyone, whether it's you or friends and family or colleagues who want to introduce their kids or the kids they work with to tabletop RPGs, check out Little But Fierce. A follow right now would be brilliant. Share the link with someone. We're trying to get as much momentum as we can before we go live with the funding in March. I'm really excited about this project, and the more followers, the more funding we get, the better we can make the book. The more art we can have in it, the more actual plays we can commission off the back of it. I'm really excited by the potential of this, but I need your help to build the momentum there. So please, take that link, share it with someone you know who maybe has not seen it already. Share it on your socials. We need to widen the net, which would be really appreciated. If you do want to fund me, I have a coffee down there, £3 a month. Really helps me out with subscriptions and stuff like that, so I can keep doing the things I do. It pays for my Zoom subscription, so I can keep doing Short Thoughts episodes and the like. And kind of that's about it, really. So thank you very much for that. We're going to have a look. I think we've got a few raiding options. Who have we got streaming? Wow, we've got loads of people. We have Puzzling Old Man, we've got Cypher of Tyr, we've got Eminog, Sir Hannah, and Tiggy. Let's have a look at the numbers. I think we're going to go over to Emmy again. Emmy is an absolute delight. Make sure you say hey. If you're in YouTube land, I've not figured out how to do the raid equivalent yet. I will at some point, but it is not this day. But thank you so much for your time, and I will hopefully see you on Wednesday. Alrighty. Take care. Bye.